Good morning, children. For a change, we see the history lessons today. Social studies subject, it has four main subjects: geography, history, civics, economics. So these days we are seeing that first three lessons are related to geography. Now we shift on to history lesson, 10th lesson. Landlords, tenants, the British, the Nizam. That is, during the British period, Nizams in Hyderabad, they did not want to unite with the Britishers. So, it was independent Hyderabad. That time, how the landlords were there and the tenants were there during the British rule in Hyderabad. Generally, the word in English, peasants, P-E-A-S-A-N-T-S, peasants means a person who holds own land or work in rented land in a small land. Peasant is a farmer holding small size of land, or without land he may be working in some other landlord. That is the word called peasants. This word you will come across more in these lessons. 8th, 9th, 10th lessons you will get it. So the word you have to remember. Peasants means small landowner or the one who is working under the landlord. The opposite word is zamindar. In Hindi, you know that word zamin. Zamin means bhumi. So the people who owner of the land, that is called zamindar. They are the rich person. So he used to collect taxes from the peasants. These peasants, they have to pay the taxes for the land. So zamindar used to collect the taxes from the peasants and gave it to the kings. Kings were the rulers. So they appointed the zamindars to collect the tax from the peasants. Now, these zamindars, they had a band of soldiers, group of soldiers and horses, and they lived in a small fort. See, not a house or a hut, fort. So they are rich. Small forts called Gadi. In Telangana, in Telugu, we say Gadi. That is a small fort. The people who zamindars lived. And these zamindars, they acted as intermediaries between these government and peasants, because they collected the tax from the peasants and gave to kings. That is the government. Their lands are self-cultivated. It was called as kudukshat. Kudu means self. Kudukshat means self-cultivated land. Either they may work or they are very rich, so they did not have time to work. So they appointed many landless peasants to work under their land. So self-cultivated land they had. These peasants are two types. Already I told you, they may own independently and they pay the tax to the government. Other people, landless people, they take the land for a rent, tenant, and they work. Or these landlords, under the landlords, they may be working. So the peasants are two types. All the artisans in the country, that is smith people, blacksmith, goldsmith, or potters, and other who are the work, low level work, those who are doing, they are called artisans. They were very backward, and we treated them as low caste people. Physically they work, but we treated them as a low caste people. So when this condition was going on in India, Britishers, they started to rule India. During the British rule, they observed all these landlords, peasants and all, and to run the government, they wanted to collect more money as a revenue, they wanted to collect. So they introduced in the year 1793 a system called permanent settlement. What is a permanent? Permanent means always. Now, if the tax amount goes on change, it will be difficult for the payers especially and collectors. So, permanently one amount they settled. That only called a permanent settlement. That was introduced in the year 1793. Cornwallis was a Britisher. He was a Governor General of India that time. Then, that time this permanent settlement revenue, the taxes they collected, whether the crops failed or grown. That is, crops cultivation and crops production may be more or less, whatever it is, one amount they have, fixed amount they have to pay to the government. That only called permanent settlement. So rent also increases for the land and revenue also increased slowly. That time loans from the peasants, they were very poor people. They started to leave the land, left the land, and they were deserted, separated, and because they couldn't do, and poverty was the result. So seeing this permanent settlement system, later British government realized they wanted to change the revenue system. So one more system was announced, Rayatwari. The words Rayat means farmer. Raitu we say, Rayat means farmer. Rayatwari system. That time one person, Thomas Munro, was a Britisher. He was appointed as a collector, district collector, Thomas Munro. He was a gentleman and he collected the taxes from the peasants. And Rayatwari system means depends on the Raitu, depends on the condition of the farmers. If sometimes natural disasters may happen, flood or drought, it may happen. So he started to collect the taxes, the problem related to the rights. So they were happy. Initially they were happy only. And next the government, British government started activities. How to develop the cultivation, farmers and all. For the development activities they started to construct dams. Krishna river. First they constructed Godavari river dam. Next Krishna river. Like that in Andhra Pradesh I am saying, totally in India, comparing to North India, South India we need water facility more. Because North India, Himalayan rivers, perennial rivers are there. So they concentrated on the South India, so the dams were all constructed. So there's called development activities to develop the agriculture. Then slowly these zamindars, even in Hyderabad also, zamindars started to exploit the peasants. That was increased. The term vetti was introduced. V-E-T-T-I, vetti. Even in Telugu also we say vetti, vettiga undadam. So vetti means without wage payment, these zamindars asked the peasants to work. Though they have the small land, from that even the farmer means not only cultivation, animal rearing also they do. So from the animal rearing, what are the milk, ghee, what are the products they get, that and all first they have to, some part they have to give it to zamindar freely. Then only the remaining part should be used by the peasants, either for selling or for their own consumption. So this was the condition. So exploitation, that is overusing of the peasants by the zamindars, started the people, and the vetti also they introduced. So that the peasants, they started to leave their land and they wanted to do some other thing to escape from the zamindar. So this was the situation that time. In Hyderabad, with these zamindars, they used to call doras, land owners. We used to call them as doras. Doras means very rich people. They lived in this gadi, and they exploited the farmers and the peasants. And this exploitation continued even in Hyderabad also. Famine was a result that after some years, famine, that is drought. This drought resulted production also less, and there was no production to consumers. So purchasing power of the farmers reduced. So they couldn't do anything. So they started a movement against the government. They wanted to change all this revenue system, and they wanted some steps for them to advance their conditions. So the peasants movement started and it went on successfully. The remaining things we see in the next period.